Hello everyone. So during this video I'm going to provide you with an overview of the core course site on Blackboard. So I'm going to be telling you about what information the core course site contains, how it's structured and how you can navigate through it. So before I enter the core course site, I just want to explain this home page to you briefly. So here on the left hand side is the My Courses section. So this lists all the courses that you are enrolled on in Blackboard. So when you first begin the course, you'll be enrolled on the course site, which is the below one there, and the first module site. So as you progress through the program, this list will expand with the more modules that you start to undertake. The middle section here is my announcements. So if there's any important pieces of information we need to communicate to you, we will often do that through announcements on Blackboard. So as you can see already, there's some announcements there about student staff committee meetings, study school, university closure days. On the right-hand section, there's a list of possible tools that you may want to use to help you with your studies. So for instance, there's a calendar and a task function that you may want to use to help organize your time, your activities. And then just below that is the service availability section. So this lets you know how Blackboard and Turnitin is operating. So at the minute it's functioning normally, but it also tells you about possible maintenance or disruptions that could occur in the near future on the platform. So it's quite important to keep an eye on that because it can help you organize your time and the way you use the platform in the most efficient way. So if I enter the core course site, as you will have seen already on the left-hand side of the page, this is what we refer to as the course menu. And this gives a snapshot of how the site is organized. So all the different sections and the different areas within those sections as well. So if I just talk you through each of these areas, if I start with the Your Degree section, the first area is the induction site, which all of you will have seen in order to access this video. So this is a really key area on this site because it's been structured in a way to ensure that you have the best start possible to your studies. So it has brought together and condensed all the key pieces of information that is contained within this core course site. So as you will see, it's organized into folders. So there's folders about the School of Criminology, the distance learning team and the course, as well as the services and facilities that are provided by the university to help you with your studies. So for instance, if I enter this folder, there's information about webinars, the community of distance learners, the student staff committee, course consultants, student support services, etc. And then to navigate back, you can use what's called the breadcrumb at the top. So before you look at the different areas of this Blackboard site, I would strongly recommend that you work through this area first because it contains a lot of the information that is available within all the different areas as well. There's also an opportunity as well within the induction to access the discussion board, which I will explain later in this video, and start communicating with your fellow students, introducing yourself, etc. Okay, so if I move on from this area onto the following one, this is the course information and timetable area. And this information is contained in the induction site, as I've mentioned before, but what this area holds is information about the course, such as the course handbook, your timetable. So for instance here, if I click on this link for the course handbook, it will open up and then you can save it. There's also the Senate regulations, which are essentially the rules that govern how students should behave, etc., during their course. And it's also the rules as well that us academics and the institution need to follow. So it's good to have a general overview of what those different regulations are. Then, as I've just mentioned before, there's also a link to your course timetable. So it outlines when each of the modules will start, and also the assessment deadlines as well for each of the modules. Following that area, there is the assessment and feedback area. So this provides a overview of the assessment types as well as how they are structured throughout the whole of the program. So what kind of assessments you will have to undertake within each of the modules. And it also provides the weighting for those as well within each of the modules. So it helps you understand how your grades for each of the modules are going to be calculated. There's some further information about preparing for your assignments. So for instance, referencing, use of sources, an overview of the marking procedures that we follow within the School of Criminology and more specifically the distance learning team, and then an overview of what we call progression rules. So these are essentially the requirements that you need to meet in order to move on into the next module and subsequently progress through the program as a whole. And as you can see, they are tied to the Senate regulations as well. And then the last area of the Your Degree section is the Student Staff Committee. So the Student Staff Committee is a very important channel in which we use to bring academics on the course and the students together to talk about how the course is functioning. Is there any particular areas that need to be developed? Are there any particular areas that are working very well? So essentially what we can do is take all that feedback into consideration and ensure that the course works the best it can for you as students. So it is student centered. So there you can see there's an overview of what the Student Staff Committee is and links to some key pieces of information. There's information about subsequent meetings and also the agenda for those meetings and the minutes. So for instance, if I go in this folder, again, it's divided into pages, but if I click on this link, there's a Word document that outlines the agenda for the next meeting. So just coming out of that, following the breadcrumb, the final section as well is a feedback infographic. So it is a snapshot of key issues that have been raised during the most recent Student Staff Committee meeting, and also then an outline of what we have done with those issues or that feedback, how we've put it into practice, how we've tried to make changes. And this is regularly updated, so do keep an eye on this area within the course site. There's also information about course consultants. So essentially these are students that offer to be more involved within the development of the course. They offer to be used as a bit of a sounding board for possible future changes, etc. So there's an overview of that role here as well. So that's the end of the Your Degree section. So if I move on to the Your Development section, here there's a lot of key information about the personal tutoring structure on the course, as well as information to key university facilities and services that, as I mentioned before, are summarised within the induction site. Also information about the career development services and the Security Institute membership that you obtain when you start the programme. So if I quickly come in here, there's an overview of the different personal tutors that are allocated to the different cohorts, as well as how we function as well, and how you can make the most of us as tutors. And as I mentioned before, there's also links to all the different services and facilities. They are summarised here as well as in the induction site, because you will not always have access to the induction site through the programme, because sometimes we need to close it down to prepare it for the next intake. So that's why a lot of this information is repeated within this different area of the site. Here's the career development information. A number of you, if not all of you, will be in full or part-time employment at the minute. Most of you are likely to be doing this degree to facilitate a sideward step or an upward step in your sector or industry. So the career development service can also help you make those moves as well by providing you information about how you can develop your CV, etc. And then finally, there's an overview of the Security Institute and the membership which you can obtain. Okay, so that is the end of the Your Development section. So if I move on to the final section, which is communication, this contains information about how you can get hold of the academics connected to the distance learning team, our email addresses, our working hours, etc. And that's an important thing to highlight, is that not all academics in the team work full time. So there's key information here about when we do work and when we can be contacted. Also information about the administrative contacts, so the student support officers, who are very key throughout the whole of the programme. Following that area, there's the general discussion board. So each module will have a module discussion board, but also there's a central discussion board on the course site as well. So if I click in this area, you'll see this discussion board contains forums related to student staff committees. So if you are unable to attend the next meeting but want to raise a key issue, you can comment here, or you can upload a post here that summarises what the issue is. Or you may have some general comments or queries, which again you can post here on the discussion board for the core course site. And then other key piece of information about communication is about Twitter. So this is a link and live feed of the Criminology Twitter page. So it keeps you up to date with key developments, news, etc. that is going on within the School of Criminology. Below that section, you will see an area called My Groups. So here it will list the cohorts that you are allocated to as part of your studies. And here you can click down and you can also access the group discussion board for your cohort. So here, if we go into this September 2019 discussion board, we can see that there's some forums that relate to the induction element of the site. So a section to introduce yourselves, to meet fellow students, etc. So that is the key bits of information with regards to the core course site. However, if you do have any queries, then please do contact your personal tutor.